The message came on a Tuesday. Dr. Alan Mercer was drinking his third cup of coffee when the computers at Arecibo began to light up. At first, he thought it was a system error. The pattern was too regular, too perfect to be natural. But as the data poured in, his hands began to shake. "Someone get Dr. Harris in here now," he called out, his eyes never leaving the screen. The radio telescope had picked up a signal from a star system 27 light-years away. It wasn't random noise. It wasn't a pulsar. It was a message, and it was meant for Earth. Within hours, the facility was packed with scientists, military personnel, and government officials. Dr. Mercer hadn't slept. His blue button-up shirt was wrinkled, and stubble covered his normally clean-shaven face. "We're calling them the Vexeri," he explained to the room full of serious faces. "That's what they call themselves in the first part of the message we've decoded." Major Samantha Wright stood at the back of the room, arms crossed. Her short blonde hair was perfectly in place, her uniform spotless. She didn't trust this one bit. "And you're certain this is a first contact situation?" she asked, her voice cutting through the excited murmurs. Dr. Mercer nodded. "The message contains mathematical sequences, simple chemical formulas, and then what appears to be an introduction to their language. It follows the exact protocols we would use if we were trying to communicate with another civilization." "What do they want?" someone asked. Dr. Olivia Bennett, the team's molecular biologist, stepped forward. She was tall with dark skin and curly hair pulled back in a tight bun. "The message includes what looks like an invitation. They're sharing technological information as a gift. They want a cultural exchange." Major Wright frowned. "In my experience, no one gives something for nothing." The news of first contact was kept quiet for 3 days, while the team worked nonstop to decode more of the message. Then the president made the announcement, and the world changed overnight. Some people celebrated in the streets, others hid in bunkers. Most just watched the skies with a mixture of hope and fear. 1 week after the message was received, strange lights appeared in the night sky over major cities. They weren't ships, just beautiful auroras in impossible colors that scientists couldn't explain. The stock market crashed, then rebounded. Religious leaders called emergency meetings. Children pointed at the sky and asked questions no one could answer. Dr. Mercer barely noticed any of it. He was too busy working with his team to decode the technological information the Vexeri had sent. It contained details about advanced propulsion systems, new energy sources, and medical technology beyond human understanding. 2 weeks after first contact, the rain started. Not normal rain. It had an odd, slightly sweet smell and left a faint bluish residue on surfaces. Tests showed it contained unusual particles that evaporated quickly in sunlight. Dr. Bennett was the first to notice something wasn't right. She had been collecting and testing rain samples when she made the discovery. "Ellen, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with worry as Dr. Mercer entered her lab. "There's something alive in these samples." He bent over the microscope and adjusted the focus. Tiny organisms, smaller than bacteria but larger than viruses, moved with purpose through the water droplet. "Are they from the rain?" he asked. She nodded. "They weren't there before, and they don't match anything in our databases." Major Wright was called in immediately. She stared at the microscope images, her face grim. "So they didn't just send a message," she said quietly. "They sent something else too." That night, Dr. Mercer stood on the roof of the facility, watching another beautiful aurora dance across the sky. The air smelled sweet, and somewhere in the distance, a dog was howling in a way he had never heard before. The Vexeri had made contact, but this was just the beginning. 3 months passed since the first contact with the Vexeri. The blue rain had come and gone, and life seemed to return to normal. But normal was about to change forever. Kevin Daniels stood on the deck of his research boat off the coast of Florida. The marine biologist had spent 10 years studying dolphin behavior, but what he was seeing now made no sense. The pod surrounding his boat was communicating in ways he had never observed before. "Listen to this," he said, passing headphones to his assistant. The underwater microphones picked up complex patterns of clicks and whistles that sounded almost like sentences. It's like they're having a conversation. The assistant's eyes widened. Is that even possible? Kevin shook his head. Not according to everything we know about dolphin communication. But I swear they're talking to each other in a new way. Back on land, similar reports began to surface. Cynthia Palmer's veterinary clinic was overflowing with concerned pet owners. Their dogs and cats were solving simple puzzles, opening doors, and showing intelligence far beyond what was normal. My cat turned on the faucet when his water bowl was empty, one woman told Cynthia. He's never done anything like that before. Cynthia had noticed strange behaviors in her own pets too. Her parrot had started arranging colored blocks in perfect patterns. Her dog had figured out how to open the refrigerator and bring her specific items when asked. The government couldn't keep it quiet for long. Videos of unusual animal behavior spread across the internet. A crow using twigs to spell out simple words. A group of chimpanzees at a zoo creating and using tools they had never been taught to use. Octopuses in aquariums solving complex mazes in seconds. Dr. Mercer and Major Wright were called to Washington for an emergency meeting. Government agencies established a joint task force to investigate the worldwide phenomena. We believe it's connected to the Vexeri contact, Dr. Mercer explained to the room of officials, but we don't know how or why. Dr. Bennett had been working nonstop in her lab since discovering the strange organisms in the rain. Now she had answers, and none of them were comforting. It's a virus, she explained, showing microscope images on the large screen. Unlike any virus on Earth, it specifically targets neural pathways and enhances them. Major Wright leaned forward. Are you saying the Vexeri sent a virus to Earth? Is this an attack? Dr. Bennett shook her head. I don't think it's meant to harm. It's changing animals, making them smarter. We found it in nearly every species we've tested. Mammals, birds, even some reptiles, and cephalopods. What about humans? Someone asked. The room went quiet. Dr. Bennett looked uncomfortable. We found traces of the virus in human bloodstreams too. But it seems to affect us differently. We're not seeing the same changes in behavior. Major Wright slammed her hand on the table. So an alien civilization infected Earth with a virus that's changing every species on the planet. If that's not an attack, what is it? No one had an answer. But the next day, they received the second message from the Vexeri. This one was easier to decode, as if the aliens knew humans would understand better now. It contained genetic sequences and instructions. Dr. Mercer stayed up all night analyzing it. When morning came, his face was pale. They call it uplift, he told the task force. They've done this to dozens of worlds. The virus is designed to accelerate evolution, to bring species to higher intelligence. Why? Major Wright asked. They say it's a gift, but there's something they're not telling us. He pointed to the data. Look at these sequences. They're measuring the results somehow. Outside his window, a flock of birds flew in a perfect formation that looked like writing. In the parks, dogs were gathering in groups, watching humans with newfound awareness in their eyes. The transformation had begun, but humans remained outwardly unchanged, and no one knew why. 6 months after the Vexeri first contacted Earth, the changes in animals became impossible to ignore. What started as subtle signs of increased intelligence had turned into something that shocked the world. At the San Diego Zoo, the gorillas began using sign language without being taught. They signed to each other and to their keepers, expressing complex thoughts and asking questions about the world outside their enclosure. They're asking about stars, one keeper told reporters, her voice shaking with emotion. They want to know if they can see books about space. In Japan, a group of crows demonstrated an understanding of basic mathematics. Scientists set up tests with different numbers of objects, and the birds correctly identified which groups had more or fewer items. One crow arranged pebbles to form what looked like simple addition problems. But the most surprising breakthrough came from a border collie named Max. His owner, a computer programmer named Joe Wilson, created a special keyboard with buttons that played different words when pressed. Max learned to press the buttons in sequence to form basic sentences. Max want outside. Max see birds. Birds different now was one of his first communications. Videos of Max talking spread across social media and news outlets. Some people called it a hoax, but when scientists tested Max under controlled conditions, the results were clear. He understood language and could express his thoughts. As remarkable as these changes were, they also caused fear. People worried about what would happen if animals became as smart as humans. Would they still want to be pets? Would they demand rights? Would they seek revenge for how humans had treated them? Religious groups argued about what the changes meant. Some saw it as a miracle, a sign that God was bringing all creatures into harmony. Others believed it was the work of demons, preparing for an apocalypse. Dr. Bennett worked day and night testing samples from different species. Her findings shocked even her colleagues. The virus has infected approximately 80% of all mammals, birds, and cephalopods on Earth, she explained during a task force meeting. The infection rate is highest in species with already complex brains, but even simpler animals show some effects. Dr. Mercer pointed to data on his tablet. The virus modifies neural connections, but it seems to follow a blueprint. It's not random mutation. It's directed evolution. Major Wright had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke up. We intercepted another transmission from the Vexeri last night. It contains more genetic sequences. She played a recording. Strange symbols flashed on the screen, followed by diagrams of DNA structures. Our scientists think they're checking on progress, she said. Like farmers checking crops, they want to know how well their virus is working. Dr. Mercer studied the new information carefully. These sequences look familiar. I need to compare them with human DNA. Later that evening, in his private lab, Dr. Mercer made a discovery that kept him awake all night. The Vexeri sequences matched sections of human genetic code, sections that had long been dismissed as junk DNA with no known purpose. He called Dr. Bennett immediately. Olivia, I found something. The virus isn't changing humans the same way because we already have similar sequences in our DNA. It's like we've seen this virus before, maybe thousands of years ago. That's impossible, she said. How could that happen? I don't know, but it explains why humans aren't showing the same external changes as animals. We're processing the virus differently, absorbing it instead of being transformed by it. As they talked across the country, a college student named Paul Garcia woke up from a strange dream. He had seen symbols like those in the Vexeri transmissions. When he opened his eyes, he realized he could remember every word from every book he had ever read. Something was happening to humans after all. It just wasn't visible yet. Dr. Mercer called an emergency meeting with Major Wright and Dr. Bennett. His discovery about humans having similar genetic sequences to the Vexeri virus needed immediate attention. We need to test more humans, he said, spreading papers across the table. I think we've been looking for the wrong signs. The virus is affecting us, just not in the same way as animals. Dr. Bennett nodded. I've already started. Blood tests show the virus present in nearly 95% of human samples we've collected. Major Wright frowned. If we're all infected, why aren't we seeing obvious changes like with the animals? Because our brains are already different, Dr. Mercer explained. We don't need bigger frontal lobes or new neural connections. We're changing in subtle ways. They began collecting reports of unusual human abilities. At first, the cases seemed random. A musician in Boston suddenly could play any song after hearing it once. A chef in Chicago developed the ability to identify every ingredient in a dish with a single taste. A taxi driver in New York never got lost, even in cities he had never visited before. Then they found Paul Garcia. The college student had gone from an average student to someone who could read a textbook once and recall every word perfectly. He agreed to be studied by Dr. Bennett's team. It started with dreams, Paul explained as they attached sensors to his head. I saw strange symbols, like the ones from the Vexeri messages. When I woke up, I could remember everything I'd ever read. Tests showed Paul's brain processing information at speeds never before recorded in humans. He wasn't just remembering. He was understanding concepts that used to take people years to master. It's like the walls in my mind came down, he said. Ideas connect in ways they never did before. More cases appeared. Diane Collins, a nurse in Detroit, found she could diagnose patients before tests confirmed their conditions. She just knew what was wrong by looking at them. A farmer in Iowa could predict weather changes days in advance with perfect accuracy. A child in Florida started speaking languages she had never studied. Dr. Mercer brought his findings to the task force. Humans are absorbing the virus rather than being transformed by it. It's enhancing abilities we already have instead of giving us new ones. But why? Major Wright asked. Why would the Vexeri design a virus that affects humans differently? I don't think they did, Dr. Bennett said. I think they expected us to change like the animals. Our response is surprising them too. That theory was confirmed when the Vexeri sent their third transmission. This message was different. It requested a meeting with human representatives. The United Nations held emergency sessions to decide how to respond. Some nations wanted nothing to do with the aliens who had released a virus on Earth without permission. Others saw opportunity in establishing formal relations with an advanced civilization. In the end, they agreed to meet, but with strict conditions. The meeting would happen in neutral space, aboard an international space station. Only a small delegation would go. While world leaders debated and prepared, Dr. Mercer continued studying the effects of the virus. He discovered something even more startling. The virus was still evolving, changing inside human hosts in ways it didn't in animals. We're not just absorbing it, he told Dr. Bennett late one night in the lab. We're adapting it, making it our own. Paul Garcia had started finding others like himself. They called themselves integrators, humans whose minds had been enhanced by the virus. They gathered online, sharing experiences and discoveries. We're changing, Paul told Dr. Mercer during a follow-up examination. Not like the animals with their new behaviors and skills. We're changing inside, becoming something new. As he spoke, across the globe, millions of humans began to dream of stars and strange symbols. The real transformation was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the Vexeri first contacted Earth. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Animals continued to evolve, but now they were doing something unexpected. They were working together. In the oceans, dolphins and octopuses formed hunting partnerships. In forests, wolves and ravens coordinated to track prey. Even in cities, dogs, cats, and birds seemed to communicate with each other in ways that suggested shared purpose. Dr. Mercer watched footage of these animal communities with growing concern. They're not just getting smarter individually. They're forming cross-species alliances. Is that dangerous? Major Wright asked, her hand resting on her sidearm, as it often did these days. I don't know, Dr. Mercer admitted, but it's unprecedented. The integrators, meanwhile, had grown in number. Paul Garcia now led a group of over 300 humans with enhanced abilities. They maintained a compound in Colorado where they could study their changing minds away from public fear and government interference. Dr. Mercer and Dr. Bennett visited the compound to collect data. The integrators welcomed them with openness that surprised Major Wright, who insisted on accompanying them with a security team. We have nothing to hide, Paul said, leading them through the facility. We're still human. We're just more than we were before. Diane Collins, the nurse with diagnostic abilities, had joined the integrators. She showed Dr. Bennett how her skills had developed. It's not just knowing what's wrong with someone, she explained. I can feel their emotions now, sense their thoughts sometimes. We're becoming connected in ways I can't really explain. In the lab, Dr. Mercer made another breakthrough. He had been analyzing the virus structure at the molecular level when he discovered something startling. The virus contains fragments of Vexeri genetic material, he told Major Wright that evening. It's not just changing other species, it's introducing Vexeri traits. This discovery led to more questions. Why would an alien species share their genetic material this way? What was the true purpose of the Uplift program? Major Wright had been conducting her own investigation. She had assembled intelligence from various government agencies and found a pattern. The Vexeri have done this before, she told Dr. Mercer, showing him classified satellite images. We found evidence of similar events on at least 47 planets based on their transmission data. Some resulted in thriving civilizations with multiple intelligent species. Others ended in extinction events. Dr. Bennett had developed a theory to explain why humans responded differently to the virus. Humans evolved alongside viral agents for millions of years. Huge portions of our DNA comes from ancient viral insertions. We have defenses and adaptations other species don't have. Paul Garcia and the integrators made their own discovery. As their abilities grew, they began experiencing shared dreams and thoughts. More remarkably, some could communicate with transformed animals. We can hear them, Paul explained to Dr. Mercer. Not with our ears, but with our minds. The dolphins, the ravens, even the border collies like Max. They think differently than us, but we can understand each other now. The United Nations delegation prepared to meet the Vexeri representatives in orbit. Dr. Mercer, Major Wright, and Dr. Bennett were selected to attend, along with diplomats and other scientists. At the last minute, Paul Garcia was added to the list. We need someone who understands what's happening to humans from the inside, Dr. Mercer insisted. As their spacecraft approached the International Space Station where the meeting would take place, they received word that the Vexeri ship had arrived in Earth orbit. It was smaller than expected, about the size of a commercial airplane. I thought a civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel would send something bigger, Major Wright said, watching the approaching alien craft through a viewport. Dr. Mercer shook his head. Size doesn't matter when you have technology thousands of years ahead of ours. Paul Garcia stared at the Vexeri ship with strange recognition in his eyes. They're not what we expect, he whispered. They're not what they told us they are. The human delegation docked with the International Space Station, their hearts racing with a mixture of fear and excitement. This would be the first face-to-face meeting with an alien species in human history. Major Wright insisted on security protocols. We don't know their true intentions. Stay alert. After 3 hours of preparation and safety checks, the airlock opened. The Vexeri representatives entered the meeting room. Dr. Mercer had imagined many forms the aliens might take, but nothing prepared him for what he saw. The Vexeri weren't single entities, but collections of smaller organisms working together to form humanoid shapes. Each individual consisted of thousands of tiny creatures, glowing with faint blue light, moving in perfect harmony. We welcome Earth's delegation, said the lead Vexeri, its voice a chorus of tiny sounds blending into recognizable English. We are pleased by your survival and adaptation. Dr. Bennett stepped forward. Survival? Did you expect us to die? The Vexeri shifted, the tiny organisms rearranging themselves slightly. Many species reject the gift. Their biology fights the changes until their systems fail. Humans have surprised us with their resilience. Major Wright's hand moved closer to her concealed weapon. You infected our planet without permission. You changed our animals, our people. Why? We uplift worthy worlds, another Vexeri explained. It is our purpose, our mission. We travel the galaxy bringing intelligence to promising species. But we were already intelligent, Dr. Mercer said. The Vexeri seemed to confer among themselves, their forms rippling with internal movement. Yes, this is unusual. Most worlds have one dominant intelligent species. Yours had only you. Now it will have many. This creates stability, balance. Paul Garcia had been silent, his eyes closed. Now he opened them. You're a collective consciousness, he said. Each of you is many, thinking as one. The Vexeri turned toward him with evident interest. You perceive correctly. We evolved beyond individual thought long ago. Our strength comes from unity. That's what you want for Earth, Paul continued. Not just more intelligent species, but connected ones. A network of minds. Yes, connection brings wisdom. Isolated intelligence leads to destruction. The meeting continued for hours. The Vexeri explained their history, how they had once been simple aquatic creatures who learned to connect their nervous systems. Over millions of years, they developed the ability to share thoughts and eventually to function as collective entities. We face a threat, the lead Vexeri finally admitted. A darkness moves through the galaxy, consuming worlds. Only through diversity of thought and collective action can any planet resist. What threat? Major Wright demanded. They have no name we can translate. They destroy mind itself. They hunt worlds where intelligence flourishes. Dr. Mercer noticed something odd. You keep referring to worlds facing this threat, not yourselves directly. The Vexeri went still. Too still. Then, our homeworld was lost long ago. We exist now only as travelers, uplifters, preparers of worlds. Major Wright caught Dr. Mercer's eye. They both recognized the evasion. Later, back in private quarters, Major Wright shared her concerns. They're hiding something. Their answers about this threat were too rehearsed. Dr. Bennett agreed, and I noticed inconsistencies in their description of how the virus works. The genetics don't match their explanation. Paul Garcia was staring out the viewport at the Vexeri ship. When I'm near them, I can feel their thoughts leaking. They're afraid, desperate even. The threat they mentioned is real, but there's more they're not telling us. Dr. Mercer reviewed his notes from the meeting. They said our world was unusual because we already had intelligence. But then they said that's the pattern. One dominant intelligent species per world. Major Wright nodded grimly, which means they didn't discover us by accident. They were looking for worlds with intelligence. The question is, why? As they discussed possibilities, back on Earth, the transformed animals continued to organize. In the oceans, on land, and in the air, new communities formed with complex social structures. And the integrators grew more connected to each other and to these animal networks with each passing day. Something was coming together on Earth, something the Vexeri had seen before, but never quite like this. After returning to Earth, Dr. Mercer couldn't shake the feeling that the Vexeri weren't telling the whole truth. He spent days analyzing everything they had learned about the aliens and their virus. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A group of archaeologists in France discovered cave paintings estimated to be over 30,000 years old. The images showed humans standing alongside strange glowing figures that looked eerily similar to the Vexeri. This isn't first contact, Dr. Mercer told Major Wright as they examined photos of the cave art. They've been here before. Dr. Bennett had been running tests on ancient human DNA samples from various archaeological sites. Her findings confirmed their suspicions. Look at this, she said, pointing to her computer screen. Human DNA from 30,000 years ago shows traces of viral insertions similar to the Vexeri virus. Not identical, but close enough to suggest they experimented on early humans. Major Wright pounded her fist on the table. So they've been manipulating us for thousands of years. To what end? Meanwhile, Paul Garcia and the integrators had made significant progress in developing their abilities. What started as enhanced memory and intuition had evolved into something more profound. The integrators could now share thoughts directly, forming a network of minds similar to the Vexeri's collective consciousness. Paul invited Dr. Mercer to witness their latest breakthrough. We can connect not just with each other, Paul explained, but with the transformed animals too. He demonstrated by sitting in a circle with 5 other integrators. In the center stood Max, the border collie who had first learned to communicate through a keyboard. Now, Max needed no keyboard. He's thinking about the stars, Paul said. His eyes close. He wonders if dogs will ever travel in space. The other integrators nodded, confirming they received the same thoughts from Max. Dr. Mercer was astonished. You've created an interspecies collective consciousness. Not created, Paul corrected. Discovered. The potential was always there in our brains. The virus just unlocked it. On the other side of the world, Major Wright had been working with military intelligence. Powerful telescopes detected unusual objects moving in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit. Something's coming, she informed Dr. Mercer over a secure line. Multiple objects, large, moving faster than natural objects should. Dr. Mercer connected the dots. The threat the Vexeri mentioned. It's real, and it's heading toward us. He confronted the Vexeri representatives who remained on the space station. This time, he brought Paul Garcia with him. Tell us the truth, Dr. Mercer demanded. What's coming toward Earth, and what role did you intend for us? The Vexeri seemed to collapse slightly, their collective forms losing some coherence. Finally, they spoke. They are called the harvesters by most species. They consume worlds where the uplift has taken hold. You used us as bait. Major Wright's voice was cold with anger. We seed many worlds, the Vexeri admitted. The harvesters cannot attack all at once. Each world that resists gives others time to prepare. Paul stepped forward. But you didn't expect humans to absorb the virus instead of transforming like the animals. No, this has never happened before. Your species is unique. Dr. Mercer realized the terrible truth. You expected us to transform like the others, making Earth just another target, a diversion to protect your own remaining colonies. The Vexeri did not deny it. But we didn't transform as expected, Dr. Mercer continued. We absorbed the virus, adapted it. And now we're connecting with the transformed species in ways you never anticipated. Yes, the Vexeri representatives seem to pulse with new energy. You have created something new. A different kind of collective consciousness, one the harvesters may not recognize. Paul's eyes widened with sudden understanding. That's why they hunt transformed worlds. They feed on the energy of collective consciousness. But human-style consciousness is different. Can we fight them? Major Wright asked. The Vexeri's form flickered. Unknown. No species has succeeded alone. But your world is no longer alone. You have many intelligent species now, connected in new ways. As they spoke, the objects in the Kuiper Belt accelerated, moving directly toward Earth. Earth had 1 month to prepare for the arrival of the harvesters. 1 month to find a way to defend against a threat that had destroyed countless worlds before them. Dr. Mercer worked with Dr. Bennett day and night to understand the unique way humans had absorbed the Vexeri virus. They discovered something remarkable. We're not just containing the virus, Dr. Bennett explained to a room full of world leaders and military officials. We're reprogramming it, making it our own. She displayed a complex diagram on the screen. Humans have turned the Vexeri genetic material into a new kind of neural network, one that allows us to communicate with other species while maintaining our individual consciousness. Dr. Mercer stepped forward. We believe this is why the integrators can connect with the transformed animals. And it might be our best defense against the harvesters. Major Wright had mobilized global military forces, but conventional weapons seemed useless against entities that could travel between stars. Their best hope lay with the integrators. Paul Garcia and Diane Collins led an expanded group of integrators, now numbering in the thousands. They worked with transformed animals to create what they called the Earth Network, a vast web of connected minds spanning multiple species. The harvesters feed on collective consciousness like the Vexeri, Paul explained. But our network is different. It preserves individual thought while allowing shared communication. Diane added, when the harvesters try to consume our network, we believe we can absorb their attack and redirect it. Dr. Bennett developed a modified version of the Vexeri virus that enhanced the connection between humans and transformed animals. Many brave volunteers received this new version, strengthening the Earth Network. The Vexeri, realizing their mistake in using Earth as bait, offered their technology to help. Major Wright remained suspicious, but they needed every advantage. "We cannot fight directly," the Vexeri representative explained. "Our form is particularly vulnerable to the harvesters, but we can provide knowledge." With their help, Earth established early warning systems to track the harvesters' approach. The transformed dolphins created underwater communication networks. Ravens and other birds formed aerial observation teams. Even insects began working in organized patterns, gathering information across continents. As the day of arrival grew closer, an unexpected ally emerged. Max, the border collie who first learned to communicate with humans, had been working with other transformed dogs to form a unique component of the Earth network. "Dogs understand humans better than any other species," Paul explained. "They've lived alongside us for thousands of years. Their minds bridge the gap between human and animal consciousness." Max and his kind became crucial translators in the Earth network, helping different species understand each other's thoughts and intentions. When the harvesters finally entered Earth's atmosphere, they appeared as swirling clouds of dark energy, absorbing light and heat. They descended toward major population centers, seeking the concentrated energy of minds. The world watched in terror as the first harvester cloud engulfed a city. But instead of destruction, something unexpected happened. The cloud stopped expanding, then began to contract. Through the Earth network, Paul Garcia led the first counterattack. Thousands of integrators joined their minds with millions of transformed animals, creating a mental force that surrounded and contained the harvester. "It's working," Dr. Mercer shouted, watching the readings on his instruments. "The Earth network is absorbing the harvester's energy." Around the world, the pattern repeated. Wherever the harvesters attacked, the combined mental force of humans and animals worked together to contain and absorb them. The Vexeri watched in amazement. "This has never happened before," they communicated. "No world has ever repelled the harvesters." After 3 days of continuous mental battle, the last harvester dissipated, its energy absorbed into the Earth network, strengthening it further. In the aftermath, Earth was transformed. Humans and animals now shared the planet as partners, each species bringing unique perspectives and abilities to their collective future. Dr. Mercer stood with Major Wright, watching a group of children playing with transformed wolves and ravens, communicating through the network. "Their virus transformed dozens of species," he said quietly. "But humans absorbed it and made it into something new, something better." Major Wright nodded. "And now the galaxy has to deal with us."